Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. All right, what's going on, Omar? How we doing?
I'm doing well, Samuel. It's a pleasure to be back. I know it's been a while. Time flies, but like as always, with good friendships, you kind of pick up from where you left off last.
Man, it's amazing to see. So much has happened. It's been a good number of years since the last time I talked to you. But you know what? We have an audience that has all kinds of people listening. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, totally. So a little background on me. I mean, first and foremost, your team will probably cut that out, but like I'm a proud husband and father, soon to be 2 kids.
Woo!
So really good there. Born and raised in Texas on the U.S.-American border, first generation American, went to medical school in Texas, dropped out, went into the industry, carried the bag, started in surgical robotics, moved into marketing, worked in a lot of different companies. And then I started my own business in 2022. A lot of people know me from essentially a digital selling course that I had. But a few years ago, I decided that it was time for me to start solving bigger, more complicated and expensive problems. And now I have an agency. I don't know if it'll probably not be ready by the time this episode comes out, but the name of the company is MarketCraft. Our whole focus is on how do we engineer markets for companies to be successful around. And the company's name is MarketCraft. Our domain is marketcraft.ai because as I was building the agency, we started training and leveraging AI from a very, very early time. So we still use that today in terms of training models for clients, but then also for our internal use as well. And so it's we were talking about it earlier. I know that you guys use AI internally. It's just a great time to be alive right now.
Yeah. No, it's kind of wild. It's funny. My last few episodes have been revolving around AI because it's just in your face, man. You can't not talk about it because it's part of everyday life. But let's get into just the state of selling and promotion when it comes to med sales, or med tech. So, I want to talk about platforms. Right now, you're on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. When you're thinking about companies that are trying to be seen, are you thinking LinkedIn? Are you thinking multi-channel? Talk to us about what are the opportunities out there for any med tech company that's trying to scale?
Yeah, and I'll start. We work with different companies, but our sweet spot is, as I tell people, we live on the left side of the adoption curve. So we work with a lot of early stage companies.
Sure.
And so LinkedIn is the first place to start for a few reasons. LinkedIn's a place where, guaranteed in medtech, that is, you'll have all your investors and the people who are going to invest in you, usually from angel investor all the way through seed stage and some growth capital. You have your strategics on there. Right. So if you're trying to get acquired or trying to do some partnership, they're on there. And then for the most part, the market or customer base that you're trying to sell to is on there as well, being clinicians, surgeons. Now, not every single physician is on LinkedIn. And if they are on LinkedIn, that doesn't mean they're active. But a growing majority of clinicians are starting to leverage LinkedIn. LinkedIn, for me, I'm fortunate enough to have somewhat of a informal relationship with LinkedIn corporate. And so I know that coming out of 2020, their healthcare division was one of their biggest and fastest growing ones. And now they're trying to invest more in growing that segment so that large med tech companies see the value in terms of storytelling on there to hospital administrators, surgeons, et cetera. And then because LinkedIn's owned by Microsoft, that thing's not going away. And they see that as, LinkedIn does this, by the way, which is they'll buy a network, right, and not change it to Microsoft and allow that network to grow. LinkedIn is one of those. They bought a few other online platforms and apps to do that because their whole thing is how do you create a network effect for their suite of products, right? And so to answer your question kind of shortly, LinkedIn's the first place you want to start. It's a place where you sort of develop that muscle about how do we create content and tell a story, et cetera. And then you transfer that to other places. For most med tech companies, I would say after LinkedIn, X would be the next one. right?
Okay.
A lot of
Okay.
physicians use X when it comes to conference time, etc. And then from there, I would say like being, getting the handles, but starting to be active on Meta's suite of businesses. So that would be Facebook, Instagram, and of
Okay.
course, like if they're ready, like TikTok,
Okay.
But I would say for most of our clients, it's LinkedIn, then X, and then Meta. And of course, like something that I don't consider it social media,
Mhm.
but it should be approached in a somewhat similar way as YouTube and leveraging
Okay.
not just YouTube videos, but like YouTube shorts, etc.
So when it comes to, let's start with LinkedIn. Who's in MedTech? Who's taking advantage of that right now? Who's just all over it? They've seen the value, they understand the value, and they're running with it.
Yeah, like I'll use some individuals, and then I'll use some companies. So like on the company side that everybody sees, I would say Zimmer Biomet is a great example of that. Ivan Tornos is probably, I think I confirmed it that he's probably the most active in terms of as a content creator who's in a C-suite senior leadership level of like a Fortune. I think they're a Fortune 500,
Sure.
definitely a Fortune 1000 company. Zimmer is one of those, and Ivan Tornos is one. Another one I'd say that does a really fantastic job, actually, probably my favorite in medtech, is Intuitive. So Intuitive has a pretty active company handle, but I've noticed just in the last year, maybe the last 2 years, that their senior leaders, like I can't remember his name, but Jason, who's their head of global marketing, posts a lot on there. Henry Charlton, their chief commercial officer, or his executive vice president of marketing and sales. I forget the titles, right? But they do a great job of storytelling. And the storytelling that they do is like twofold. One is like from a brand standpoint of like, here's the company culture that we have, what we're doing with our employees, our suppliers, our customers. And the other side is that they do a good job of like marketing their product, so like anytime a new feature is released for, one of their instruments, is even if it's something as small as like haptic feedback, like there's a nice post explaining like why this is important, and the idea is that like you're trying to engineer a market. When you engineer a market, the whole idea is how do you show up on a consistent basis? Something that I always like to tell people, and this is a good way to think about LinkedIn, is it's like you're in good shape, I'm in good shape. So somebody comes and says, Omar, what can I do to get in shape? The advice is actually very simple. It's like, don't eat a lot and work out like on a daily basis to some extent. Like that's very simple advice. It's not easy though.
Sure.
It's the same thing with LinkedIn content, which is you got to think about it as three frameworks, which is like number one, how do you get attention, right? How do you sustain that attention over time? And then at the bottom, how do you layer on persuasion to either do a change in behavior in the marketplace, like I'm going to adopt this product, I'm going to do things differently, or to actually take an action. I'm going to take a meeting with this person, right? And you have to play that game on a daily, weekly basis. Like it's not like it's everything's gotten more competitive,
Right.
and especially like now with AI, like anybody and their mother can make content. So it's like not enough just to like make content,
Yeah. Yeah. With you're right. You can use AI to make content, but I still see that when it comes to content creation in AI, just because AI made it doesn't mean it's going to work.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. 100%. And somebody who he was on my show, I really respect him a lot. And he's built like a 9-figure business, is Neil Patel, who's like a really famous digital marketer.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a while too.
He's an OG, bro.
Yeah,
he's an
yeah,
OG.
he's an OG.
But his team does like large scale tests on a lot of things. They did show that like AI generated SEO does outperform human generated SEO, but human generated with AI refined SEO. So like you come up with an idea, use AI to refine it. That actually performs the best.
Yep.
And these things are going to change, right, over time. So like right now, there's enough saturation in the marketplace that algorithms and other things are able to recognize when something's just purely AI.
Okay. So when it comes to content, I love what you said earlier when you said, you have to get attention first. What does it take to get attention? From your perspective, how often do you have to be present? Let's say you're listening to this episode right now and you're in a startup and you're trying to figure out, how do we get our company out there? How do we get seen? We're on LinkedIn. We got our profile ready. How often should we be putting out content? How are we looking to get our content seen? How would you say we start?
I mean, for us on the client side, what's manageable and doable is to commit to doing at least 3 pieces of content a week, and then you add things on top of that. And you asked about what does it take to get attention. Let's understand first, like, why does attention even exist? Attention exists because it is a lower brainstem function for survival, right? If you think about 1,000 years ago and you're in the wilderness, your attention is drawn to something that's new, because something that's new and not familiar usually is a threat and could kill you, right? And so that's why, like, even today, you can see how your brain has been programmed. It hasn't evolved. Is that you can be walking in your neighborhood and everything's fine, and all of a sudden you hear like some rustling of the leaves, and all of a sudden you kind of like you jump, right? There's like no tiger or anything, but like still, and the way that attention works today is that, like, you'll be on the highway driving, and let's say there's a billboard, that you've never seen. You pay attention to that billboard, but then over a week or two, like, it starts to phase out in the background. And so if you think about what it takes for a company, there's a balance between what's the key message we want to hit on, right? And this goes to, like, not only defining a category, but like, how do you own this thing, right? So for example, if you are trying to own, like, you want your brand and name to be attached to, let's say, pulse field ablation for some very specific area, like, you got to hit on that message constantly, over and over and over and over and over again, from all kinds of different angles, so that when somebody thinks about pulse field ablation, like, your brand comes up. The other side of it, though, is that you have to vary it in a way, because you have to always figure out, like, okay, how do we get attention again? And this is why I tell CEOs, and when we work with a company, our team does ghostwriting for the CEO, which is, okay, yeah, we're going to get you to talk about the company, we're post content there, but, like, what about you as a leader? Like, what kind of books are you into? What kind of shows do you like, etc.? Because there has to be novel things that you post that catches somebody off guard and gets them to literally stop and pay attention, And so that's why there's this game you have to play of varied content. And the other side of it is that, like, could you come up with a formula to this? You could, but then this is again, if you come with something formulaic, over time it's predictable, right? And the more predictable you become, the more people are just going to turn you off, right? That's why if you think about, like, some of the like really big brands out there, I mean, look, somebody who's like a genius when it comes to attention and being like an energy monster, Donald Trump and like Elon Musk, right? Like, they get it, right? If you look at like Mark Zuckerberg is the CEO of a $1 trillion company. He still comes out on Instagram and does like a simple video of himself talking about a product release. But then on occasion, he'll post something completely out of left field, like him wakeboarding with an American flag. Like, immediately that draws your attention, right? At the end of the day, attention is a very, like, ancient and metaphysical concept, right? If you think about life, wherever you put attention, you're going to get more of that. There's an energy to that, and this can translate to marketing and beyond.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of. In this day and age, it seems like what it takes to get attention is the craziest stuff you've ever seen. You kind of brought it up, actually. Donald Trump, I mean, the things that he says and does, it's shocking, right? And when you think about how he got to where he is, it's because of the things he initially started with that added a lot of shock value. Made people say, whoa, what the heck is this guy talking about? Doubled down, found an audience, and then grew with it. Elon Musk, same example. And then you mentioned Mark Zuckerberg. But these guys, these examples you use, they had amazing things they were already doing. I mean, Elon Musk took over Tesla and turned it into $1 billion brand. Zuckerberg had Facebook, which was already hot before he ever opened his mouth. And Donald Trump had a reputation long before he decided to do what he's doing today. But what if you're that person that has nothing, right? And you have this company, or you're starting this startup that no one knows about, and you're trying to get that attention that Elon and Zuckerberg and Trump clearly have now. How, those guys already had something to bring to the table where even before they opened their mouth, people were curious about what do they have to say, right? Let's talk about Donald Trump. When Donald Trump first went for presidency and opened his mouth, people were paying attention because they were like, what is he going to say? And then he delivered with something shocking and racy, and then people were like, whoa, and it took off. But if you're unknown, if nobody knows who you are, what you're about, what you're trying to do, when you have this thing you want to bring to the world, how do you do it? What kind of content do you put out there to just shake things up? And as you answer that, I want to add just a little bit of more context to it. You mentioned ablation and being consistent so that when people think of ablation, they think of you. Mm-hmm. But you and I know there's content creators out there that they're always present and they never really get a lot of volume. It's just kind of there. And like you said, it's kind of tuned out. How do you avoid becoming that, especially when you're brand new and you do not have something big that you've been working on that people know about and you're just unknown?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer in context of LinkedIn, and then I'll kind of expand from this. So like on the context of LinkedIn, the algorithm does a really good job of figuring out who this content should go in front of based on the text that you use, the images, etc. Right. And so sometimes like you don't just have to like put out content for the sake of being like racy and get attention and everything.
Sure.
Right. So again, and this is the thing about LinkedIn compared to other platforms. Like LinkedIn, the community on there, like
it's a different community.
It's a different community. They're looking for like ways that you can develop like goodwill. Yeah, and value.
Yeah.
But on occasion, like you do have to think about like how do you, as this common phrase is used, like pattern disrupt, right? And so the other side of it is that like you can't be like predictable, right? If you want to get like something that can get attention is unpredictability. So I'll use myself, for example, on my own show. I'm kind of unpredictable on my own show, right? That's what like has drawn a big audience. Ray Cohen, investor of Axonics, had a $3.7 billion exit. He wasn't the biggest exit who's been on my show, but when he shows up on my podcast, I think we're going to do like a third one soon. Like the audience loves him because he's kind of unpredictable.
Yeah. You don't know
in a good way.
What he's going to say next. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, as a founder, like you can tell a story, but like you have to think of some unique ways of like, how do I like get somebody's attention and bring them in? Like, I'll give you a great example on Twitter or X. I'm sorry. I started writing more threads. I have a goal to grow on there. Okay. So I've been doing these viral threads. It took some time. It's not like growing on X is not easy. So one of my threads got 5 million views, and it was about the 48 Laws of Power. A lot of people have read that book. Some people have not, but it was familiar enough where somebody might see and say, oh, I've read that book. What's this guy saying about it? Right. And then people want to contribute to it, etc. Like there's all kinds of ways to essentially get attention. You can get attention on LinkedIn, which by the way, if you look at, oh God, I forgot his name, Vanderbloom. He's the guy who develops, in my opinion, the best annual algorithm report. But you have to pay for it. For his algorithm report, it showed that like, which I noticed this a year ago as well, that, LinkedIn started valuing comments more. So like my good friend, Chris Walker, built one of the best demand gen agencies in SaaS. He built his brand, actually accelerated it just through really long, thoughtful, but also like provocative comments.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so like that's another way. And so again, like you got to think about it as a game of like, not just putting out content, but like, how do I go and jump on? If you look at like what big influencers do on X, like they'll go and comment on each other's stuff, right? They're trying to be that first comment. So again, like it's a game. It's a game at the end of the day. But again, like this is where you have to test and try things, right? And sometimes, for a founder, a lot of founders I work with, they're technical and they're a little bit introverted. So like it's kind of intense to put out your content. Your own stuff.
It's a lot for them to kind of come out and put anything out there.
It's a lot. And what I tell people is like, look, the best thing to do is like not to think about like hundreds or thousands of people and like, will this work or something? My recommendation is to think about like who's like one person you can make this piece of content for that they would like really like it, and maybe post it and send it to that person so they engage with it. That's what I would start. Sometimes like I create content because I'm like, I think this is really interesting. Sometimes those pieces do well, sometimes they don't. When they don't do well, I don't give up on it. So like, I'm a co-founder of a software company. So we developed omnicreator.club, not just for content management on LinkedIn, but so it's easier to kind of look at your data and say, and actually this is, my co-founder may not like that I'm announcing this, but like, this is where we're rolling out an agentic. We have AI built into it, but we're rolling an agentic version of it where it can go back and look at past posts that did not perform really well,
Sure.
but that should be tried again and maybe in a different way, right? And so you just like never know, right? Like for example, I can tell you right now, you could have posted the like best piece of content ever on X on Wednesday of this week. Ain't nobody engaging with it because like, very tragically, Charlie Kirk was killed. Like that's all anybody wants to pay
It's
attention.
dominating everything. Every
Yeah, it
platform.
dominated everything. Exactly. And so, you have to take that into context. There's seasonality to things. There's all these things. I mean, look, on the algorithm side, this whole golden hour of the algorithm is kind of dead. Like where, if you post during these times, this is when it's the best time to post. That's kind of dead. We still, for our clients, post during those times because that's when we know that they're logged on and that's what they prefer. But like the algorithm will does a better job these days on all platforms of serving pieces of content to the right people at the right time. But again, you have to keep in mind that, seasonality, what's going on with things, etc. And this is why this is a game. Look, like I have the #1 podcast in all of Medtech. I have all these guests who come on. I still have to put out content. I still have to do all these things, do my newsletter, everything. It's a game. I'm not competing with just, agency owners in Medtech. I'm competing with like everybody, including like Jake Paul and these big brands, because all these people all are vying for like the same thing that I'm trying to get, attention. Right.
Yeah. I think it, once upon a time, I used to think, man, when we get to be a big brand and the podcast has all these episodes, it's just going to be easy and just put on autopilot and just make the episodes. And you don't have to do much else as far as promotion, only to learn that, to your point, the bigger you get, the more you have to do.
Yeah.
You keep leveling up into a different stratosphere of vying for people's attention.
And I'll tell you, like, I think no matter who's listening to this podcast in your audience, I think everybody would benefit a lot if they read the 48 Laws of Power. There's a pocket version that you can start with. There's the if you're really serious, like go with the full version. But you can start with just going online and looking up the 48 Laws of Power summary and kind of reviewing those laws. Like there's a law in there that you should not be seen or accessible all the time. Again, there's this idea of mystery. Somebody who did this extremely well was like Michael Jackson, right? Michael Jackson would like release a hit record or something, and then he would like disappear from public eye for like a year or two. I'm not saying to your audience, like if you're a founder, like disappear for a year or two, but like maybe you disappear for like a week or two. You don't post anything, right? People, like some people may wonder, be like, yeah, I used to see that guy posting. And I've done this myself. Like I remember a year ago or two, it was kind of coincidental, but I was like, I wonder if that law of power really works. So like, I didn't post for like, I think a solid week. And I post multiple times a week. And I think, like a board member actually texted me. He's like, hey, is everything okay? And then I was like, oh man, am I in trouble? And I messaged him. I was like, hey, yeah, everything's fine. And he's like, I just haven't seen anything. Like I haven't seen you on my feed for like a week and I'm used to seeing you. And I was wondering what was going on. So like, that guy took action on it. How many other people did I have influence on of thinking like, where's Omar this week?
So then, okay. So in that vein, you also champion consistency. Are you saying you can do things like that after you've reached a certain level? Or are you saying no matter, even if you're new to the game and you're trying to build your brand, take time off?
Yeah, take time off. And sometimes you need to, like, you can tell people who haven't taken time off because like it's just like the same old tired point of view and content, right? And so sometimes like you need to do that. That's why I think it's good to, sometimes batch content. I use OmniCreator to do that, which is just to schedule things out and be done. And then like throughout the week, I'll come up with some ideas and everything. But like, yeah, there's like, there's a science to social media and attention and everything, but there's like sort of an art to it as well, right? Like there are things that I don't know why they did so well, right? Could it be that I did a good job, hacking the algorithm that week? Maybe. Could be that I tapped into something deeper, into like a collective subconscious thing. Like, I don't know, maybe. But yeah, it's a game, man. It's a game. And this is why I think the people who are the best are the ones who have like a lot of energy for it. They're curious.
Right.
They enjoy it. If you see it as a drag, like, you're never going to be good at it.
Yeah.
Like I think, if you look at people who are really good at it, like some of the YouTubers, like they bring a certain energy to it. That being said, I would also say that not enough people go deep these days. There's a lot of surface level BS out there, a lot of it, and people are losing this capacity to like.
Give us an example. Give us an example of what deep looks like versus surface level BS.
I mean, like okay, I've been writing more about attention and awareness, right? So like every like 2-bit marketer is like, oh, you got to get attention. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Why is that important? What like metaphysically, psychologically, physiologically, why is that important? And again, like for my company now, MarketCraft, like that's a big deal. And so like the other day, I put out a post about our Slack channel. I created a wins column, right? And so I was like, there's a really deep metaphysical reason as to why I have a wins column, right? Where you put a lot of energy and focus, right? You'll perceive more of those kind of things, right? That's where you're going to start training your brain to scan for, right? There's a reason why I'm putting wins on there. It's not just to feel good. Is that these are the kind of things I want my team to put energy and attention on. If you start honing your attention to every little thing that's going right, that's progressing you forward, you're going to be able to do that more and more and more. If you look at your own life, a lot of times when people are down on their luck, it's because the only thing they've put attention on is how every single thing is going wrong.
Sure.
And then you get more of that because essentially you're subconsciously training yourself to put attention on those kind of things.
Sure.
Right. And so the like simple things like that, again, marketers didn't go deep on it. If you think about copywriting, like, okay, copywriting is important. Why is it important? Like, what are the different levels of copywriting? Not enough people go deep. And again, this is where like it's a benefit now. There's a lot of people who are putting out content. Everybody's still like very surface level, right? I'll see a post on LinkedIn from, some, people that you and I know. They'll talk about some concept and they'll write this like super long post where it's just a bunch of words and they're not like actually going deep in the topic. They made it look like they went deep in the topic, but you read 2 lines into it and you're like, there's no depth to it.
So that's interesting, because I think one of the fascinating things about, especially, and we'll stay on LinkedIn, you'll see content. I love what you said earlier. You said sometimes, Sam, I see content, I make content even, and I don't know why I did well. And I'll see content that really performs, and I'll look at what's said, and I'm like, that's a pretty general thing. However, I can see how everybody gets that. Everybody gets that, right? What was just said is basic, it's general, but it's real, and everybody gets it. And then I'll see other content that doesn't perform very well, and I'm like, wow, that was deep. That explained a whole new level of thinking, but it's just not catching. So on that note, how do you decipher? You're saying people should go deep, but I guess it calls into question, what determines good content? Is it the number of likes and just the visibility alone that says, okay, that was a great piece of content? Or is it that you should be paying attention to some other driver to determine if it's even a good piece of content? Let's start there. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional, or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.